Jim, here we are at SMU and the first TED event in Dallas that Jim Young and others have been so invaluable at bringing here. In terms of taking a look at the ideas that you've gotten so far, which would you say have really struck home? You've gotten something from this.
Well, I think the obvious theme of this, certainly this morning, was the environment. And when you saw the gentleman talk about the oceans, and there was that image of how large the land is, and then when you looked at the very small point, almost like an ink dot of the fresh water, you realize just how precious the earth is and a responsibility that we have. And, there's a lot of debate about climate change, but when you come to a program like this and really look at the hard facts and see some of the pictures, you really realize that you have to take it seriously, not just for us, but for future generations.
And we both have children, and I have grandchildren.
And I want grandchildren.
And you will. Just be patient.
All right.
Jim, we go to conferences like this, and we live in the world of ideas. Someone at home, what can they do to make a difference? Because the whole theme of this is what can we change?
Well, I think that's something we're all debating right now. When you look at what's happening in healthcare and some of the other tough issues that the United States and the whole world is facing, is you wonder, what can you as an individual do? I think all of us have an obligation to be well informed. And we also have an obligation to really interact with our government leaders, our elected officials at all levels, not just at national, but at local and state and regional as well.
What can conferences like TED accomplish in terms of making progress with those individuals who may not be familiar with it?
Well, I think one thing that this conference has really tried to do is bring in a diverse group of people, because so often I think we end up talking to the choir, talking to people who are already aware, who are well informed. I was very pleased to hear that Jim and Carol Young, you had mentioned, who have been so involved with this, felt that it was absolutely essential to have middle school and high school children come. You can tell by the audience there's a wide diversity in age here, I'm sure in professional backgrounds. I mean, there was, as you know, a process to be admitted, so I'm sure that they were looking for diversity. So hopefully by doing that there'll be continuous exchange of ideas and follow-up, so that people will realize that there are problems and that we have an obligation to work on them.
And Jim, you're here not only in your representing the World Affairs Council, but you also filled out and did the essays and got in as one of the participants, one of the attendees of this conference.
I did indeed. There were no freebies for this one. Everybody had to fill out an application.
One of the things that I most admire and respect about the work that you do is the mission of the World Affairs Council. Tell us a little about that, because there's almost a congruence between TED and what you do.
Well, right here today we have our information booth, and there's so many people that are coming up and asking, what is the mission of the World Affairs Council, and what is your typical member? And I say that it's someone who's curious, who is interested in the world about them, who wants to make a difference through the World Affairs Council at all levels, whether they're middle school, high school, college, or adult. We try to provide opportunities so that people can meet interesting people, and as I like to say, reach beyond the headlines.
Thank you. Thank you for
very
letting
much.